Welcome to the Reads Between the Tyne podcast. Hello everyone, my name is Grace and welcome to the Reads Between the Tyne podcast. I hope you're all doing well. Today I am joined by Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, and we're going to be talking about kind of the growth of bookish social media during the pandemic and how it's kind of transformed reading habits and demographics and kind of the surge of book social media on BookTube and Bookstagram and BookTok. Let's start off by meeting our guest, Gavin. Hello. How
Hello,
are you?
Grace. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I'm excited to talk with you about this today. So would you
Me
like
too.
to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I half expected you to say Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin because I'm still not used to my new name.
I
So I was like
know.
half expecting like, oh, How to Train Your Gavin, I am Gavin, and I run a YouTube channel called Gavin Reads It All. I am a Newcastle University alumni as well. I graduated in 2017, which feels like a lifetime ago now, honestly. But I did do English literature. And I am blessed to say that I can still kind of use that like that degree in a way that I can engage with text and be able to follow my creative passions of reading and books still to this day.
Are you from the Northeast?
Yeah, I've lived in
Yeah.
Gateshead all my life. That's where I've been born and bred.
Ah, very good. What kind of content do you like to produce or put on your YouTube channel?
I love doing like reading vlogs, kind of almost day in my life. I know a lot of vlogs cater towards reading and book lovers and people who are, wrapped up in the book community. I love being able to do stuff like that. But I also love being able to put a little bit of a lifestyle spin on things sometimes and give a glimpse into my life, what I do my day to day. I do like to do recommendation videos sometimes every now and then, offer some of my own kind of little knowledge of books because I did also used to be a bookseller. So being able to add that to my bookish resume on YouTube is something that has been really, really interesting. Let's put it like having the real world life of a bookseller mixed in with an online life of a booktuber kind of thing. It's kind of two worlds that beautifully met so that I can present any kind of videos that are more catered towards people who love books.
Mm. That sounds amazing. Congratulations. I've seen you like 70,000 subscribers on
Yeah,
YouTube. That's incredible.
it's
And yeah, wow. When did you start?
I started April 2019, which
Mhm.
was just under a year before the pandemic, which was something that was like such a turning point for the book community, I think. I was only a few months into my job as a bookseller. And before that, I was reading for university and I was constantly in the book sphere. And then after leaving university in 2017, I wasn't really too sure what to do. I was a little bit lost after that. And so I, took over a couple of different jobs. And it wasn't until I found my bookseller job at Waterstones that I kind of like re-fell in love with books and reading. And then, yeah, a couple of months after that, I felt confident enough to do a BookTube channel. I'd been watching BookTube for years and years and years, and I'd always wanted to be part of that, but I never had the confidence to do it. I was a little bit scared and timid. Gosh, what a time in my life, I guess. It was a big decision, one that definitely changed the trajectory of my life. And yeah, it's I look back fondly, even though it is embarrassing how I started, but no, I love it. I do. It's the best.
Oh, it's brilliant. There's always something so cathartic about watching YouTube videos, I feel.
Oh,
I've watched your videos for a long time and I don't know what it is. Whenever I'm on YouTube, I automatically gravitate towards bookish videos. I wanted to kind of just start talking about how the pandemic started and you trying to navigate running, having a job and doing booktube whilst in a global pandemic. What were you up to? when that
What was what was I up to indeed? It felt like a lifetime ago, honestly. Well, when the pandemic started, I wasn't really that big on YouTube or anything. I was still like a relatively small YouTube channel. So it's like nothing had really like taken off just yet. I was still trying to find my identity. But then the pandemic hit and stores closed and I think it was called furlough or yeah, it's been that long I
yeah.
can't even remember what it's called anymore. But a lot of people were like furloughed during that time, including me. And I was just at home 24/7. There was nothing else really for me to do other than read the massive TBR that I had and make videos. And it was like kind of the first taste of being able to do YouTube as a full-time thing. And it honestly it changed everything because I realized waking up each day and doing something creative was like really driving me forward. And just having the standard 9 to 5 wasn't really what I was, like loving. I feel like a lot of people discovered themselves during the pandemic, and I feel like myself included. It gave me an opportunity to make more videos, spend more time on videos, and also to grow my channel too, because I feel like the audience was doing the same thing. A lot of people watching BookTube didn't really have a whole lot more else to do, or I mean they did, but they kind of wanted more comfort in escaping to other people's videos and finding out what they thought about maybe their favorite books, there's certain things that they've discovered for the first time during the pandemic. And I think my channel grew a lot more during that time. There's not that many UK booktubers, I think, who like can really compare to the big American booktubers. And I feel like we had such uh, a different kind of experience to a lot of like American booktubers and Canadian booktubers because they grow all their own a lot of the time. But speak for myself, but I saw a lot of my friends who are UK booktubers also grow during the pandemic. And there were certain community events during the pandemic that people were participating in, like reading sprints and live shows, where people felt like they were with other people. And that's the appeal of YouTube sometimes, is you're watching someone and you see like their life. All of that said, it's like the pandemic was like an awful, awful time. And so many people needed something during that to escape. And for me, my escape was making the videos, reading the books and putting that online and engaging with the community. And a lot of people needed that escape and that safety, really. So like seeing people without like being with people in a way.
Exactly. For me, I've always been quite I've not always liked going out much, and I've been very much of a homebody. So pandemic was pretty good for me because I got to, be by myself with my books. But I feel when the pandemic hit, I was like, I have no one to talk to about my passion with books. Like I was like, oh my God, I've just read this amazing book. I need to tell someone about it. So for me, during the pandemic, I kind of definitely dived into like virtual communities, like book clubs and like Bookstagram. I started, following all of these accounts and finding YouTubers and started interacting. So I feel like the pandemic definitely started a lot of like these communities, and they grew very, very quickly because people were interacting.
Yeah, when you said book clubs as well, yeah, absolutely. Book clubs were like thriving during that time as well. Being able to, yeah, have that direct communication with someone, talking about the things that you'd read, things that you'd loved, is like phenomenal. There were so many readathons during that time too, that even if you ask people now, what was like your favorite like readathons or memories of the YouTube, BookTube, or your time in the community, a lot of people will go back to during the time of the pandemic when everyone was kind of hanging out online and everyone was, talking to one another and being a community. And it was like still probably like one of my favorite times was, being at home and being able to talk about all of the things online that I wanted to without feeling guilty for being at home, especially since I did have a job then. So when I came back, I think it was June 2020 when we came back, and it was so weird. Like it was so different. And like I could read a half of a book at the till because like there was nobody really coming in when we first reopened, and it kind of took me away from BookTube again. And then I rediscovered it again in 2021 when we went into another lockdown. And it kept snowballing from there. And then my channel grew from that. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess. I feel like it feels to this day, a lot of people do still go to BookTube for comfort because I have a Patreon, and a lot of the stuff I did while I was in the pandemic was like movie nights and reading sprints and true crime wine nights, or anything that's kind of, like almost like one-on-one, like, hey, we're hanging out, we're watching a movie together, stuff like that. They're still like the most popular things that I do on like Patreon, for instance, because people just love being able to have someone to hang out with and do things with. So yeah, I feel like it's still to this day quite impactful.
The Bookish community is becoming a lot more hybrid. So it's still online, and obviously since like leaving the pandemic, like becoming more in person, which I like. So obviously during the pandemic, TikTok blew up. The TikTok boom, like the book boom, blew up. You on TikTok?
I try and stay off it because it really is so addicting. That's one of the things about it, is that it really can be like, it can suck you into the content, and it's like really quick and fast and easy. And it feels like you're doing so much because everything's so short and you can just like do it long. But I had to step away from it. It was like too good, you know what I mean? It was too addicting. And I realized I wasn't doing everything that I should have been doing myself. So I am more into like long form than I am short form.
Yeah, would you say if you were on BookTok, your content or like the stylization of your videos would change?
Yeah, and you know what? Even though I'm not on BookTok, I still feel like a lot of people, like even including myself, take a lot of inspiration from it with like the quickness of it. I like shortening myself. Like I still do long videos, but like say clips and things that are in videos, I'm shortening. I'm making them a little bit more fast and punchy, and kind of the cuts and the zooms and all of this, that, and the other. You need to constantly have things in motion because like a lot of people, like, their attention spans kind of like reducing, and it's not really something, being able to sit down and watch like a 5 hour video, for instance, is like really catering towards people who don't have a lot of time really. And then there is the crux of the fact that you're using a lot of time on TikTok because it has sucked you in. It's like the balance between them. Even the people I watch too on BookTube, I seem to see them do cuts, and they're a lot quicker, and they're talking quicker, and they're being a bit more punchy and fast. And I feel like a BookTok, sorry, has kind of infested BookTube. And a lot of people get ideas from BookTok too. Like I read the worst books recommended on BookTok, or what was this BookTok fantasy, what in the world did I just read? I've even done a video like that, It's a minefield for BookTube, Bookstagram, like any other book space that, yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like learning and taking from.
I personally think BookTok has completely taken over a lot of the book spheres. So like the virality of like one book, if it blows up, then it's everywhere. And it's once again infested like actual bookshops and other forms of social media. Let's think of an example. Fourth Wing. I'm sure you've heard of this book. I have very, very strong opinions about this book and how the media have taken it and the publishing industry have taken it. But that book went viral on TikTok. And then from that, it has moved from TikTok to Instagram to all these other social platforms, blown up. I feel the power of like BookTok and also BookTube, because there's a lot of videos that go viral and like trends that go viral that also are manipulated and like shared. That definitely started in the pandemic because of how much time everyone was on social media at that time.
I have a lot of thoughts because I remember working at Waterstones, being a bookseller. I remember before the pandemic what kind of things that we would like do tables for, do displays for, and they were just like normal general things. And then after the pandemic, we would have a TikTok table, we would have a TikTok display, we would have, oh, you can see these books as seen on TikTok. It was all about TikTok a lot of the times. And the most popular books that were selling every other day are books that were from the BookTok table or the BookTok display. And a lot of these books that were really popular, were books that had come out years and years and years ago, like things like Adam Silvera, They Both Die at the End, or like The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, Sarah J. Maas, like she has always been pretty popular, but she had like a resurgence, I would probably say, like after we reopened the stores. And it was like these were so popular on like BookTube like 5, 6 years ago, and BookTok have really taken off with it. But what I noticed was a lot of it was like young adult fantasy, and like a lot of it was like young. I mean, there was obvious other ones as well, like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo,
Evan
and
Hugo.
yeah, like there were some like outliers like from like older like for older readers, but the majority of the things that were selling were young adult fantasy. And I feel like with the pandemic, a lot of students were affected, like really badly affected by by their studies. Yeah, yep. A lot of students were, like in their teens or like early adulthood. The stories and the books and those kinds of things that they were gravitating towards were like young adult fantasy, and that's what like BookTok was pushing as well, because there are a lot of young creators on BookTok, and like BookTube had its day. I would probably say like about 10 years ago, young adult was like the most dominant BookTube genre like ever. Like so many people were doing it. So many people got really popular off that with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And I feel like now BookTube has kind of like shifted its core audience a little bit as people have grown up and evolved. BookTok is like BookTube like 5 or 6, 7 years ago, but like more like hyped up and a lot more impactful. The impact has been incredible, and I love it honestly because it is getting people reading. Even if it is, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, which came out years ago. I don't care like what people are reading. If people are reading and like especially the young adults are reading, that's phenomenal. That's amazing. And it gets people from watching BookTok if they think, oh, I would love to see a little bit more on that. I would love to find out someone's opinions on this a little bit more in depth. Then they can go to YouTube. One of the most recent examples of how impactful um BookTok is in the romantasy genre, like Fourth Wing, because Goodreads has like made its own little romantasy awards section and gotten rid of other sections. Like a lot of places are just following the trend. I both love and hate it because I would love for something that's a lot more like literary, I guess, or like something that's like has maybe better messages or is maybe a bit better written. Like I would love for those to blow up and become the most popular, but that's never the case. It's always the ones that are a bit more popcorn, like entertainment kind of books, which is fine again. Not shaming anyone who reads anything like that because I read stuff like that all the time. It's very particular, and it's usually the same kinds of books that get really hyped on BookTok and take off. It's something that's I feel like revitalized the book community in a way. I do think the bottom line is it's been great for publishers, being great for authors, getting the revenue for their books, getting more deals, and it's like at the end of the day, everyone wins really. I think, in my personal opinion. So no, it's impressive. I wish BookTube have had the same kind of impact, which I'm sure it did at one point, maybe before my time, but never to the levels of BookTok.
I think it's interesting now because since the pandemic, the publishing industry has definitely been feeding into the social media and seeing like the tropes grow and seeing what genre is doing really well. Therefore, they are putting more books out within that tropes and within that genre. So like if we the romance genre, for example, the fake dating trope has been copied and pasted in so many books that are being released by publishers. So much so, many of these books that are being released are the exact same. And then also from the pandemic as well, publishers are also putting books out more quickly. They're desperate to get the next viral book out for the entire book community to actually get their hands on it. They're just, because of the quick pacedness now, they're like, I need the sequel now. I need the next book in this series now. Once again, I agree with you. It's definitely really good for the industry. And I'm so glad that authors are being so successful. And there's more like independent bookshops coming out of all of this, and all of just loads of people being really, really interested. But then again, I think that a lot of the quality and time and investment and the long haul that is writing a book, it getting edited, it being, you know, nitpicked, and then being published is definitely shrinking. I read this article, I sent it to you. It was an interesting article, once again, about Fourth Wing and how a lot of books are starting, because of how quick they're being made and sent out, to not keep audiences waiting. It was really interesting what they said about it's becoming like fast fashion and being churned out constantly. A lot of authors are like unaware of certain things that are happening in their books, being conscientious about different aspects of their story, whether it's from myths and legends of different groups such as Celtic or Gaelic, you know, history, names and places and things like that. And I wanted to know what you kind of thought about the authenticity of people's work, the sticking to a good story, being authentic in the writing, just the quality of literature that's hitting the mass markets at the moment.
Yeah, they're all looking very samey. And even when you look at covers and things, I feel like a lot of them, they try and replicate too hard of something that has been popular. Like the amount of Cruel Prince ripoffs that I've seen. And I can't attest to like the actual quality of these books because I avoid a lot of them, because you do see how a publisher has just taken something and just went along with it just because it was like the most popular thing on the internet at that time. I feel like the fast fashion thing, and I did have a look at the article as well, and I was like, I didn't even know that the author of Fourth Wing couldn't even pronounce their own like things that they've used in the book. And I'm just like, it does kind of show you, especially when you're taking from maybe other cultures, there is this huge responsibility of impressionable young adults who are reading all these types of stories and taking them. And a lot of books do shape people's lives. Like a lot of things that I've learned are from books myself. And there are certain things that were definitely very wrong that I've realized as an adult is like, oh, that's not the way you say this, that's not the way you do that. And it's very eye-opening. But to see how quickly things are churned out, there is such thing as like overconsumption. Like as booksellers, like when I was a bookseller, and we see how many new books came out a week, and just the overwhelming choice that people have can really deter people from making a good decision on what they want to actually read. Because yeah, something might work once, like maybe someone does a Fourth Wing inspired book themselves, and then that just keeps on happening, and it's like the trickle down effect. And you know, it's like it gets less and less of about an author telling a genuine story and more about, oh, you know, dragons are really popular right now, I'm just gonna write a story about a dragon. It becomes less about someone telling a genuine story and more about how can I make more money. Like just from Sarah J. Maas as well, the amount of young adult stories that have come out that are like something of something and something, you know, I'm like a court of thorns and all.
Yes. Yes, a lot
You
of
know what I mean?
courts, a lot of shadows. I have
Yes.
noticed that as well. That's actually a really valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all pretty much look the same as well when you look at their covers and even like synopses. There's just so much that's too much, you know, and there is definitely something that's too much, which I think is why a lot of people look to Book Talk for like hopefully a genuine recommendation. You need someone to filter all of the noise that's coming out from all the publishers. I met up with Beth Rickles yesterday. She's one of my friends from Wattpad. She did like the Kissing Booth, and she's got some like young adult romances that have come out. And we were talking about, you know, publishing and the rapid fire pace of it as well, and how a lot of authors feel like that aren't like TikTok famous and aren't TikTok sensations to, you know, churn out more books. And Beth Rickles herself, she had like 3 books come out in the last year because publishers are like trying to push things that are like, especially romance. Like, I didn't realize just how much people wanted specific romances, which have like specific tropes. A lot of authors are feeling pressure to meet that same level and still
Yeah.
tell genuine stories. And that's like so unfair in order to stay relevant and like to make money in this, because a lot of authors, they live paycheck by paycheck and they have to sell a certain amount of books to make a certain amount back or whatever. So like it's been a little bit unfair on the authors who genuinely have stories to tell and don't have the time to do it.
I was talking to Laura Stephen about this
Mm.
and kind of While she was in discussion with V. Schwab, they definitely highlighted V. Schwab's now at a level, a bestseller, where she can now write what she wants, and her audience and her book lovers will just follow with her. And Laura, for a long time, she was like, I want to do so many different things. She said, oh, I was being really successful in comedy books. However, her passion was horror. She loved writing horror, young adult. She really didn't know like where to go. And she told me she was planning on quitting at one point because it was just so difficult for her to navigate kind of the whole publishing sphere. And then she got a 6-digit Penguin book deal, and now she's doing really, really well. I think for authors, not only do you have to be good at the writing, you've also got to build a platform and have a public persona.
Well, with V.A. Schwab as well, I remember the very early days of BookTube in like say like the Archived and the Unbound by V.A. Schwab. Like she was like a little bit more of an unknown author, but I feel like she really blew up on BookTube. And there are certain authors who I think have managed to make it by getting onto those platforms and having the support from those platforms too. And V.A. Schwab is an author who comes to mind when I think about like early BookTube and like things that were made popular because of BookTube. I find it so incredible that like say Cassandra Clare as well, like obviously like she's just popular in her own way too. But yeah, there's just like so many people who I just associate with these online communities. And then I wonder, would they have been as popular without them or what? Which is why I think a lot of publishers do love to work with people who have like book blogs, who do BookTube.
I think it's really interesting, and definitely with algorithms, this was something I've recently been reading into, how a lot of authors and social media influencers and creators are definitely playing into the algorithms now. They're making content for the algorithms, not what they actually want.
Everyone still to this day is trying to analyze the YouTube algorithm. I was even watching a video this morning about like the YouTube algorithm and trying to understand what you should be doing. Everyone on YouTube is a slave to the algorithm. Like our YouTube careers are dictated by it. And still it's like this very elusive and mysterious thing. And it's something that you really can't like exactly pinpoint exactly what will take off and what will become popular. It's so dependent on audience retention, audiences clicking on the video and staying on the video, what YouTube ends up pushing out because people are staying and watching the video for longer. YouTube values watch time. It's getting people's butts in seats and watching YouTube for an extended period of time. And then they favor those videos and those creators. So what I found works for me personally with the algorithm is making videos that are long, because then I've got like thousands of hours of watch time on that specific video. And there are certain topics that do seem to get picked up by it because it's constantly, something that people look up. Like book talk, for instance, like if someone makes a BookTube video about book talk, that video is going to do well. One thing I've been trying to learn more of doing this year is to just replace the word algorithm with audience and realizing what is my actual audience right now. Like my 77,000 subscribers, that's how I should be making these videos for. Because if my subscribers are clicking on those videos, then the videos will be more popular because then it will reach out. But as we were talking about with the industry, trying to like cater towards the market and like, oh, this is popular right now, so I'm going to push this out. A lot of creators, like myself included, are sometimes backed into a corner where we see certain drop-offs, like, oh, I'm not doing that well this month in terms of like subscribers or watch time or revenue. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a video that I know will do well. So what the videos I know will do well on BookTube are book hauls and book unhauls, things like that will always get views because that's something my audience and I think the audience at large on BookTube want to see. You have to replace it with algorithm with audience and start catering towards them instead. But it's always the ones that you least expect. And a lot of it's topical. Like Britney Spears' memoir came out last month. So people are making videos on that and they get popular. Or during Halloween, like a couple of years ago, I did a Goosebumps video. I didn't think that would be popular, but for some reason, nostalgia and Halloween was coming up, so that kind of pushed that video. So really, it's such a guessing game with it, and it's the most scariest part of being full-time on YouTube because you just don't know if it's going to be a good month or a bad month sometimes. So you just have to like keep on going and praying that the algorithm does reward you, but it's so strange.
I call it the YouTube Big Brother,
It's
literally,
always
because
watching.
yeah, it's always watching. I think it's insane how it works and how like people can spend hours and hours and hours on a YouTube video or a piece of content and it not do very well, and then they randomly film like a 2-minute clip or a random video and it blows up.
Yeah.
Which is good because it boosts a lot of people's audiences and introduces them to different kinds of videos. So it's good because I feel like it kind of starts leveling everybody and pushing everybody up, growing different platforms. But then again, it can, teeter quite a bit.
Why I love it when BookTokers move onto YouTube, because a lot of them have, and they have these really wildly successful YouTube channels, or even people who did a different niche before BookTube. Like, for example, Jack Edwards, who has like 1 million subscribers, but he was a study tuber before becoming a booktuber. So it's like it's amazing to bring those like audience members over to like BookTube to get more eyeballs on the content. Like I did a book talk video back in April. I filmed it in a day and I didn't put that much thought into it because I was like, oh, I have a day off. I want to read this book talk book. Let's just film a video out of it. And that video was like one of my most successful of the year. And I literally did it in a day. And I genuinely didn't even put that much thought into it. But because it's book talk, it got popular.
How do you plan content then? Because it's so unpredictable. Like, what do you expect? Can you expect anything, or?
I love planning. Planning is probably my favorite thing because I love the ideas and I love, hoping that one of these ideas will just take off. I do try and plan a few months in advance, and I try to have a mix of different videos that month. So I'll try and do maybe one super long vlog. I'll do something that I know will cater towards BookTube, and I try and balance it out that way while still doing some of my fun creative ones. Ones I want to do more of because they are popular are my like going away and doing like haunted locations, but they're so expensive and I can't do that all the time. So I try and like put them like throughout the year and stuff just so that people who do love those videos can like come back and watch those and have something new to see. It's a game every single month when I'm trying to plan ahead. At the minute, I feel very fortunate to have an audience that seems to stick around even when I put videos up that they're not that interested in. But videos that I did years ago that are more like evergreen content that people can watch anytime. And because I don't love doing TBRs, like monthly TBRs or things that you can only really watch in that month. And then it's kind of like redundant after that. Making evergreen content that's popular years later also like really helps. And doing stuff like the Vampire Diaries, for instance, things that are popular like that really help. And Pretty Little Liars. I'm kind of riding off the wave of the popular stuff that I put on my channel in the past, while also giving me some freedom to try different things in the present. It's great for BookTok because all those new audience members may click on those videos and help with that, but you really can't predict it.
What do you think's going to happen, like maybe in like a year or so? Do you think things are going to settle down? Do you think BookTok's going to be bigger, smaller?
Any predictions? I feel like BookTok's like not going anywhere. The only way that BookTok would go away is if it went the same way as Vine, which was I used to love Vine so much, and that was kind of like the precursor to TikTok. Something drastic would have to happen for BookTok to go away, I think, and I don't see that happening, honestly. I feel like the publishers are feeding into BookTok, which is making BookTok grow even more because they're constantly pumping out these books that they're hoping will cater to it. And every now and then they will get a hit. They will get something really popular.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought that the most popular BookTok books will have been over by now, and then something like Fourth Wing comes along, and you're like, well, damn, everyone's reading this, And it's like the circle of publishing life. You have BookTok promoting it, and publishers wanting to recreate that. bookshops want to capitalize off it and make money, and then it goes back into the BookTokers who are, buying these books, consuming these books, and like that circle, I don't think is going to stop, and BookTube has lasted a long time as well, and I bet a lot of people thought, oh, BookTube will be, over by 2015 or 2016 or something, and it's still going as long as there's people still wanting to be part of the conversation when it comes to books and reading, which isn't going anywhere either. I feel like the sales of books have been incredible because of Book Talk too. Yeah, it's just, and the audience as well are kind of discovering these platforms and almost like growing up with it again. It's a resurgence, and everything kind of seems to get a bit of a renaissance when it comes to the book sphere. So I genuinely don't see it going anywhere.
Yeah, I definitely think the 16 to 25 demographic during the pandemic definitely increased.
Yeah.
I remember when back in the pandemic on Bookstagram and BookTok, there was the whole aesthetics trend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, like the dark academia, the Visco girl and cottagecore. A lot of them definitely romanticized reading. And I think that was what led a lot of people into it, to try and, as you said, like identity during the pandemic was something a lot of people struggled with. So I feel like books and kind of the aesthetics trend, like all the trends definitely followed into books and people trying to find themselves and finding also an escape as well. I think it's a really interesting dynamic where all of these concepts have kind of come in. I've got a couple more questions before we kind of just wrap this up. I love the fact that obviously since the pandemic, the virtual like little small groups within the bookish community have definitely bloomed. So for example, how we met at a little booktuber meet in Newcastle, and it was a very small group, but it was a group of people from all across up and down the UK, and we all came together, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really sweet. The one thing that will stick around for a long time is the communities. Even though that obviously it's gotten so big, they're starting to break off now, but bringing kind of the virtual world that was built in the pandemic is now kind of once again becoming hybrid, and it's being brought into real life as well. Are you hoping that we post-pandemic that we have a lot more in-person meets rather it all being online? Do you hope there's more of a transition to more in-person meetups?
Yeah, it's a good question because I'm trying to like do that actively myself. I work with Trover Trip now as well and do like trips and with people who are like-minded. I did a trip in September to Japan with like my subscribers and like patrons, and it was incredible. They were all book people, and we had a week in Japan, and it was so good. And like that's something that I'm seeing a lot of booktubers do right now, is offering these like Trover Trip getaways where like-minded book people all meet. And a lot of people are usually like really nervous and anxious about it. Like I'm sure a lot of people were anxious and nervous before the booktuber meets on Saturday. I know I was as well. Because yeah, like a lot of in-person things, it's like it's trickling back into it now, and it's honestly wonderful to see. It's a nice space to have that. And so I'm doing another trip next year to Egypt with a lot of people, doing China in 2025. So there's like a lot of people, and I was surprised that people signed up for them. I thought, oh, no one's gonna sign up for it. It's just gonna be a little pipe dream. But no, I'm so surprised by like how many people have joined my trips. There's a dozen other booktubers who are doing these trips and are promoting them, and they've already started doing them and are selling them. And it's people are craving that, I think, now after the pandemic. People are craving a little bit more human interaction in person, especially around this topic. Doing that has just been like so incredible. As a bookseller as well, before the pandemic, we did a lot of school events, and we would like get authors to go to schools and talk to like the students and stuff like that. And it took a little while for those things to start happening again after the pandemic. Like it was like really slow going. And then finally we did manage to get, in 2022 actually, we started to get the school events back into doing that. And honestly, I can't tell you just like how needed it is to almost like one-on-one interactions with people from the book community to remind you that this is a real thing. We're not just all online faceless avatars and profiles and we say these random words online or anything, but like we're actual living, breathing human beings. So seeing the tides change with in-person meetups and booktuber meetups is so incredible. Same with book clubs as well. We had a book club at my bookstore that we had to stop during the pandemic and a little bit after. That only like recently before I left, like started to get going again, tube meetups or anything like that are gonna go well because even if like a small amount go or a large amount go, it's just gonna be awesome. Yalk last year, I went to Yalk last year and that was good. Lots of booktube people and book people just talking nerdy stuff, it's my favorite.
It's our own little subculture, isn't it, where we get
Mhm.
to express ourselves a lot, and
Without
basically,
judgment.
yeah, without
Yeah.
judgment as well. And I like when I moved up here from home to go to university, I couldn't find anyone to talk to about my book interests. And since starting this project and Reads Between the Tyne and joining like societies and pushing myself to go to these events and traveling the northeast to these bookshops, have I found a lovely people, also like-minded people that are interested and engaged in the texts and books that I'm reading, that I really love about the northeast, because it's definitely kind of it's growing, especially like Waterstones, Newcastle. They've definitely getting a lot bigger.
And I went to usually like some author signings or author talks in the Newcastle branch because that's where they would usually happen. Like Alice Oseman, whenever they would talk at Waterstones Newcastle, I'd be there. I'd be there in a heartbeat. But yeah, it's I love that story though. I love the fact that you've been able to also just like get the confidence to be able to talk to more people about it. Because as soon as you do find your people, you do feel like you can talk more and come out of your shell more. And that's exactly why I love BookTube so much and having any kind of book platform. Say, okay, I know these people who are coming to see me or to like view my videos. They're the kinds of people I want watching my channel. They're the kinds of people I want to interact with and have conversations with. The book community is just like the most accepting and lovely. Saturday was so lovely as well at the BookTuber meets. And also, I love the name Read Between the Time. That's just like such a that's such a good name.
I was very proud of myself for coming up with it.
Yeah, should
Yeah,
be.
thank you very much. We've covered every single part of this, and it was really interesting hearing your views and your opinions on it, because you're an expert in the field. You've got a cracking huge audience. You're doing the most incredible things, making the most incredible content, and as a member of your audience, I love it. What's next? Have you got anything coming up that you're excited for? Any projects or?
I'm mainly excited about doing a lot more traveling as well.
Mhm.
Ever since the pandemic, yet again, I find myself wanting to go out and explore more now, and being able to incorporate that into my YouTube channel is usually it's so good. I feel blessed to do it. It is expensive. I booked the Shire House that's in Saltburn, so I can read like some Lord of the Rings books. That's in January. I'm really excited for it. Doing more videos like that if I possibly can, and yeah, I'm just excited about a lot of just random video projects, video vlogs that I want to do, and more of the books that I'm going to explore and read for the first time. If you asked me that this time last year, genuinely, I wouldn't have said any of the things that actually happened this year because doing YouTube full time, it's like every week is kind of a mystery and it's kind of fun to just navigate and to see what happens and hopefully the fun lasts as long as it can. And if not, then that's absolutely fine too. You just gotta like go with the flow and enjoy life.
Enjoy it whilst you have it. Thank you so much for being on this podcast episode. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
And, well, this has been a lovely, lovely time as well. Love being able to talk books with you, Grace, and talk anything and everything about the publishing industry as well, things that we don't typically touch on. I think it's really important to be able to do that and to explore like the impact that so many different people in the book community can bring to it in all of that. So I think you've done a bang up job. I think you've touched on so many incredible things that need to be explored. And yeah, books forever, essentially. And
Books forever. That's
Books forever.
that's it. That's the final statement. Well, thank you very much for listening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to check out Gavin's YouTube channel as well as the Reads Between the Tyne website and Instagram. All links will be below. See you soon!